Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic, let's do it. People who know someone who have killed someone, what were they like? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. In my early 20s, I was employed at a fast food restaurant where I worked alongside a man who had killed another man who was SAing children in the complex where he lived. He was pretty fresh out of prison when I met them at work. Very likable guy, honestly. My neighbor shot his father. He's usually a calm person. I've never seen him get angry even when his wife frequently shouts and argues at him. In the days leading up to the incident, he seemed unwell, talking to himself as if someone were threatening his life. During the police investigation, it was revealed that he was suffering from schizophrenia and had not taken his medication for 3 months. My uncle killed his cousin as a teenager in a drunk driving related accident. He was the drunk driver, and his cousin was a passenger. He went on to join the armed forces, and was deployed to numerous countries, Cyprus, Haiti, and Afghanistan. But the worst was by far Bosnia in the 90s. Before Bosnia, he was always a quiet, reserved guy, who was quick to anger and who liked to drink a bit too excessively, but was still an otherwise decent guy. He always had a look in his eyes that he had some baggage, but was still somewhat personable. He returned from Bosnia as a solitary individual, struggling to reintegrate to society. Guy's still around, living the hermit life in the woods. He survived off of the money he makes selling handcrafted knives he forges and crafts in his garage. He almost never speaks to anyone, never shows up to family events, never remarried or dated after divorcing my aunt, and only keeps in contact with very few friends who have decided to stick by him. My stepdad is one of those people. He receives a random call from my uncle once every couple of years, almost exclusively in the middle of the night. During these calls, my uncle apparently doesn't say much. It's almost as if he wants to say something, but the words never come. The dude clearly saw or did some shit in Bosnia that, I suspect, is also compounded by some pretty heavy feelings he has as a result of having killed his cousin. So where I grew up, it was an unspoken but also really common sense rule to not walk around downtown at night, especially alone. Someone in high school did this on purpose so he could get the chance to off someone in self-defense. What happened? Twice. He was nice but always gave a weird vibe, even trying to tell us he was a psychopath. Maybe we should have listened to him. But the guy loved animals, so I wasn't believing it until the incident happened. One of my usual customers killed his wife. I saw him daily for years, even after he killed her. Before he was a suspect, I saw him. Such a weird guy. He was almost over-the-top friendly, and remembered things you'd tell him. Always ordered a 6-foot American before work, was a nerdy guy, tipped very well, and brought us at Christmas time. But he always had a weird vibe. I was not shocked at all when we learned what he did, and he brutally murdered her too. One of my mom's boyfriends was a terrible guy. He ran with a crowd of people where many of them had committed murder at one point or another. Some served time in prison, others didn't. My mom's boyfriend did serve prison time throughout his life, but not for murder. I heard later, once I was an adult, from someone in the family, that he had set a house on fire with a guy in it who was a target to the group he rolled with, and I believe that. I do remember him getting a teardrop tattoo between when I first met him and after the next time I saw him years later. He was a horrible person. He was extremely abusive and beat my mom up so badly the last time they were together that every bone in her face was broken, causing enough head trauma, obviously to cause a TBI, and she suffered multiple fractures in other places in her body, including her spine. I remember when I was a kid, he would pull wings off of flies or catch horseflies and thread a string through them so I could have them on a leash. He also put our cat in a pillowcase and swung it around his head until the cat was yowling once he was babysitting me. I remember being horrified and him telling me to laugh, it's funny, and I did just so he would stop. He was really weird, really in the head, but he had this complex that he was always trying to get better, like repentant of the things he did, but with no real ability to be anyone except who he was, which was psychopathic. I live in Ukraine, and here almost every second man has killed someone, especially with the war going on. It's difficult to describe, but those who've been through it are never the same. Their eyes exude a heaviness, as if something within them has undergone a permanent transformation or breakage. They carry it with them, even if they try to hide it. I guess you can never truly be the same after something like that. A guy I met a few years ago. He was in a drug deal gone bad. The other guy pulled a gun on him, pistol whipped him in the head, and before he got off a shot, the dude I know somehow pulled out a knife and blindly slashed right through the person's jugular vein. Bled out very quickly. The guy I know was charged with manslaughter, self-defense, and a few other charges related to drugs. Spent 9 years in prison, let out on good behavior early. He comes off as a decent guy, but you can see some level of sorrow and heaviness in his eyes. He's usually very measured and calm, and doesn't get agitated at much of anything. I think prison really humbled him. He's a phenomenal tattoo artist now. He isn't the first person I've met that went to prison for some time, and came out very calm and low-key. I had an aunt, my mother's aunt, who was responsible for the death of one of her sons. He had a chronic illness of some kind, and she refused to help, stating that if it was God's will to let him live, he would. No medical intervention of any kind was used for the kid. Her husband did what he could to step in, but he struggled to manage the situation. He left her shortly before the death of their son, took him with him, and tried to get help, but it was too late. From what I've been told, he only lived for a couple more months after getting away. She was absolutely batshit crazy, but normal in every other way. Held a job, she had a house, kept it clean, and seemed normal, but her behavior is what was really weird. I feared for my life each and every time my mother would leave my brother and me with her. We would normally be stuck with her for a couple of days, at most 2 weeks. She even looks crazy. Larry ran the gym in town that my parents went to. When I was in high school, I also went there. Larry was a creep in the sense that he was always hitting on women and touching them and leering at them at his gym. He was pleasant enough, but I had been warned by pretty much everyone not to be alone with him. He shot his wife in the face with a shotgun. He then turned the shotgun on himself. She survived. Another from the same gym is my friend's dad. He was always acting like a big shot and would make grunting noises and throw weights around. Once he was trying to deadlift far above his ability, and he ripped his pants. It was like his world ended. He grabbed my friend and ran and didn't come back for several weeks. He'd get visibly angry if you brought it up. He killed his wife later that summer and tried to hide it by driving his truck into the swamp. Honestly, in both cases, when I found out, I was not really surprised. I went all through school with a girl we would call KK. Was a loud girl and very opinionated. Usually when she walked into a room you knew it, but for the most part Kay was a sweet girl who never really meant any harm. Occasionally I would chat with Kay, but we were never really close. Kay started dating a guy we will call Jay freshman year. Jay was known to do hard drugs and hung around the other kids who did drugs in school. At some point between high school and graduation, Kay started using hard drugs. Jay and Kay had a son and ended up getting a divorce at some point. He now has sole custody of their son. Last year, Kay and 2 men came into a man's house, robbing, beating, and stabbing him to death. During the murder, Kay was seen running out of the house with her hands over her ears and visibly upset, but called no one and did nothing to intervene. Kay turned herself in and was found guilty yesterday. She could face up to 60 years in prison. According to an article I read, Kay showed no remorse for what she's done. It's hard for me to believe the outgoing, bubbly girl who once cried because it was thundering outside her senior year of high school helped brutally kill a man. Drugs have destroyed this girl's life in such a short amount of time. This is not the same girl who I went to high school with. If she gets the maximum sentence, Kay won't get out until she's 88 years old. My tenant murdered the mother of his child, my other tenant. He dealt with schizophrenia, was always nice and mild-mannered. Yes, I could tell his cognizance was different than others, but never, ever could I have predicted him being capable of what he did. Stabbed her a lot, and brought her body outside, They had a 4-month-old baby whom he brought outside to lay with her. The baby was out there with her for 36 hours before a welfare check was called in. Baby was unharmed and survived outside for those days. Due to being in the military and the Marines, I definitely know people who have taken lives, and in that regard, in active military service. Does that make it right or legal? Legal, sure. Right? That's a moral question. Was it necessary? Is it at all necessary? Anyway, it's tragic. And some people deal with it like they were just going to the bathroom. And other people, it changes their life forever. So. I'm a professor, and for a brief period, I had a few combat veterans of the GWOT in my classes who were using their GI Bill to get through school. A few had killed people. One in particular had a lot of combat experience and had killed a number of people. He's actually quite a normal guy, just an older, non-traditional student, except with a crazy beard. Not anyone you'd pick out at a bar as a combat veteran. One thing that he mentioned once, something that seemed to stay with him, was the look of fear in people's faces when he would enter their homes looking for weapons or individuals. Making people so afraid seemed to leave him with some deep sadness and regret. My cousin used to be a cop, and he killed someone while on duty. A suspect drove a car at him with intent to run him down, and my cousin shot and killed the driver. I don't know a lot of details about it, but he left the force a while afterward. I think it was hard on him. Even though he was technically defending himself, he teaches high school now. My high school drama teacher was in Vietnam, and he used to show really intense slides of his 2 tours at the end of the semester. I think it was his way of being anti-war or scaring us away from glamorizing conflict or something. I'm pretty sure, just based on what we were looking at, that he killed his share of people. Weird. Now that I think about it, I know quite a few people who have killed other people. He lived in Vancouver. He was a frat boy in undergrad. He was convicted of domestic violence and child abuse. Then he got kicked out of his frat that summer, between senior year and his first year of med school. He had completed some underground internship and worked at the same part-time job for 11 years through undergrad, med school, and residency. He got married towards the end of med school. During his residency, he settled a civil lawsuit for medical malpractice that resulted in a pediatric patient's death. After residency, killed his wife. I knew a handful of people who killed someone during military service, and they often struggle with it, but it's not debilitating for them. I knew distantly one guy who killed a man who he interrupted trying to break into a workshop when the guy charged at him and needed counseling. Though family members of the guy he shot forgave him and said if he hadn't been shot, the guy would have absolutely tried to kill him, or so the rumor went. He still had a rough time from it. No murders in the way it's commonly used that I know of. He was the good-looking athlete in high school, popular crowd, religious family, strict, 1 day grounded for every minute late past curfew, smart, good grades, college-bound, always a bit self-righteous and pious, but never a physical fight in school. Intimidated kids that didn't stand up for the pledge or national anthem, late 90s, and they listened. Married high school sweetheart, had a kid, moved across country, supposedly got into drugs. She left and came back home with the kid. His father died and he apparently lost it. He started talking to another girl we had gone to school with, a bit younger. She had a 5-year-old. Judge ordered 5-year-old to go across country to visit. The dad told Judge he was afraid for his son's safety. This piece of shit beat the kid and abused him to death. Happened in 5 days. Tried to bury him in the mountains and marry the girlfriend in the courthouse so she wouldn't have to testify against him. Got caught when the dad obviously never got his son back. I'm so sad for that little child and his dad. I'm so mad at the judge and the mom for not protecting him. I'm sorry for the older brother who is an active member of church and mom of the murder. His daughter has to live with this. But that little boy breaks my heart. Why this piece of shit took it out on a child, I'll never know. He could have at least beat and killed his grown-ass piece of shit girlfriend instead. My cousin killed my sister's boyfriend. My sister and her boyfriend lived next door to my cousin. Now, my sister's boyfriend was a very paranoid dude, like maybe hearing voices kind of paranoid. but he was harmless, just really weird. The boyfriend suspected my uncle and cousin of spying on them in the back porch, so my sister and her BF put up tarps blocking their house from being seen from my cousin's house. They would yell at each other to keep their dogs from barking and were overall bad neighbors to each other. My sister said my cousin and uncle were always instigating things because they, sister and boyfriend, live with my grandmother and he, uncle, didn't like it. Anyway, things kept escalating until one day it came to a head when my uncle and cousin were putting up a camera on a pole pointing at my sister's backyard or porch for some reason. My sister's BF was not happy about the camera and confronted them. There was an altercation, and my uncle tackled my sister to the ground in the back room of the house, breaking the sliding glass door. While this was going on, the BF and my cousin were in the backyard. While it was dark, no one witnessed what happened but the cousin and the BF. While still on the ground, my sister saw her BF come inside and go down the hallway where he sat on the floor, back to the fridge, and bled out. My cousin was unharmed and admits guilt, but said it was self-defense. No arrests were made. Autopsy shows the BF was stabbed in the back multiple times. Dude from my school was like a cool older brother. He always had a joke and made everybody laugh. I was friends with his little sister, but I wasn't too close to her. He worked at the Boys and Girls Club. He always had a funny story or a new game to play. We loved hanging out with him. I remember hearing he had a son. I remember congratulating him on his son's birth. Anyway, one day I was scrolling Facebook and I saw that his son was missing. His son's grandma was frantically looking for him, and it was posted up and down the community watch page. A few weeks later, they found the baby in the river. It was revealed that the dad had taken him there. The dad claims it was an accident, but I looked into his eyes and knew he did that shit on purpose. There was 100 questions. Why was the kid in the river without a life jacket? Why were there reports of the little boy screaming and crying, begging not to be hurt anymore? He said he left without telling anybody and just left the body there. I don't understand that either. If it really was an accident, why not call the police? If I 100% think he did it and then lied about it to save his skin, because why else would he be smiling in his mugshot? I mostly blame CPS. There were hella reports on this kid. There were hella reports on the dad and his sisters when they were kids, and nothing was done. They said the baby would knock on people's doors and ask for food or ask if he could come inside. They could have saved him. I used to work in corrections, so I have met people convicted of murder and still talk to at least one person a week who has been charged or convicted of murder in my current job. In my experience, what they are like all depends on the circumstances that led to the other person's death. Those who had murdered family members tend to be cold, calculated individuals. Most of the people I've met in this case have no remorse, and if they're feeling any regret, it's because they got caught and not because of their actions. Speaking, these individuals can be unsettling. Some of them seem very hollow or overly charming. Those who murdered their mistresses or whose murder charges stemmed from a crime of passion can be very intense, emotional people. Many of them tend to show some remorse, but again, usually what they are upset about is more the loss of their freedom over the loss of that other person's life. Most of them require a lot of work on their emotional intelligence. I have met a few that put in the world while they were in prison and became quite compassionate people after decades inside. This was the group I preferred to work with, as some of them want to be better people and were happy to put the work in. Those convicted of manslaughter or the death of the other person that was unintentional tend to be more reserved and remorseful. Sometimes you could even tell they were grieving for the victim and not just themselves. In my experience, they tend to be more introspective and aware of their actions ended someone else's life. Many of them struggle with the mental health after that fact. This group can be hard to work with as addictions are usually also a factor, and that's a whole different demon. Lastly, I would like to mention the guy who killed a Nazi. He was proud of it and would tell anyone who would listen that he did it and the name of the victim. Working with him was hard because obviously these are bad people, but killing people is also bad. He struggled to understand the concept. He could be kinda scary and an asshole 85% of the time. All that said, at the end of the day, Many of them acted like normal people most of the time, and you wouldn't know they had killed someone if you weren't told. 2013 or 14, I was in driver's ed. There was a guy, Tyler Holder, in my class with me. Me, Tyler, and another guy were the oldest in the class, 17 and 18, when everyone else was 14 to 16. Tyler wore metal band shirts and sat in the back of the class, doodled instead of taking notes. I was the same, so we started talking about music and anime. The other guy I mentioned heard us talking about anime and joined us. The three of us sat in the back and half paid attention, half didn't. We all passed, barely, but we made it through the course. I had night driving lessons with Tyler and an instructor a few times. The instructor was an old guy, and I was a nerdy girl, and we were easy targets. I didn't get any bad vibes, though. Nothing seemed off, he was just my friend. I started dating the other guy toward the end of the class, and we lost touch with Tyler, though. Never made it to Warped Tour or Ozfest like we planned. A couple months pass, and I get a phone call from my boyfriend. Turn on the TV right now. Google Tyler Holder if you're not by a TV. And I see Tyler's face plastered all over the news. He was in rough shape. He was arrested after the police shootout for SA, murdering and dismembering a young girl in a street. I think she was found in trash bags at a dumpster. I wonder often what went through his head on those night lessons. Had a young friend in my first year at university, one of the tops of his class at his high school, arriving to university with a scholarship. All the good things that you'd hear from your typical achiever in school. Hell, he was 17 when he came to university, and I was around 24 when we met. Nice kid, really smart and funny. His GPA was pretty impressive. Then he dropped out as soon as he became a dad at 18. We tried to keep in touch, but eventually lost contact. Then a year later, he was in the paper that he's on the run and went to another country because he and his friend killed a guy over a girl. His picture was in there, and one of my closest friends and I were in shock. The friend that the kid was with was caught. To this day, I don't know if he'll be caught. I think it was about 12 years ago. Dude at work about a year ago heard rustling in the driveway, so he got his piece and checked it out. Random dude was already in the driver's seat trying to get to the cylinder when my coworker yelled at him. He was screwed from the start, because while the guy was armed, coworker said he had no idea, and just seeing the guy react to my coworker was enough to make my coworker flinch and pull the trigger. I don't know a lot about guns, but apparently coworker has a thing where the trigger doesn't return all the way after being pulled, so he ended up getting 2 shots on the guy. Dude probably would have lived if it was only the one. My coworker was in custody for a few weeks. He came back to work and honestly seems like nothing ever happened. Until we accidentally make a joke that involves guns or robberies, we kinda keep going along as usual. Even then, he's a very cool guy, so he doesn't get offended by it. Usually has a joke to reply with. He for sure is not happy that he took a life, but day to day it's like nothing ever happened.